Are you tired of wasting time on entertainment that doesn't bring you a sense of community? Do you feel like people are trying to force you to take a side in this silly culture war? Does your media have you feeling too conservative, too woke, too religious, too heathenous, not enough whatever, like a freak? That's because you're not a caricature. You're a real person. You're messy, and you don't fit into a box. Good news, we're freaks too.
Would you like to melt your stress away? Get connected to a community of other misfits? Maybe listen to the misfits? Stop feeling like a lonely outsider surrounded by people trying to enlist you in a war you want no part of. Become a contented member of a community that requires only that you live your best life and leave others to live theirs.
Feel a sense of belonging while opting out of the culture war. This is Peace Freaks.
All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Peace Freaks. I am Nikki P here, as always, with my lovely wife and co-host, Lizzie. How we doing there, babe?
Awesome.
This is episode number 107, and we're getting a lot of fun here today.
Indeed.
We're almost rejuvenated. A couple days away from the kid has been. Well, I'm not as tired as I was before. Maybe I'm still pretty tired though.
I mean, the kid, she's awesome, and I'm so glad that she's in our life. But yeah, actually getting to, go to sleep and get up and do things and then do them, it has its advantages.
It's probably affected your sleep more than mine.
Maybe.
Because I'm going to be up all night anyways.
Yeah, that's not how I roll. I do actually sleep when I don't have other things to do. So, I'm all cracking puns and stuff this morning.
Cracking wise, trying to wake me up so we can go out and pick the kid up. Or not. We're not entirely sure how that's going to work yet.
It's going to be what it is going to be.
It's entirely possible that I'm going to be driving to pick her up on Wednesday. And then we're just going to go have lunch today,
Which would be awesome too.
It'll be nice. I haven't seen family in ages thanks to the couve, so.
Yeah, I just miss those guys. Wah.
Okay, I'll take your word for
it. Okay.
I will take your word for it. What else is new in the life, sweetie?
OMG. So I'm getting back into, because apparently just as the coup was starting, I had started trying to break down macros and use apps to create menus so that everybody could get all the stuff that they needed and I could pre-make things and, everybody's getting the right amount of calories, but not too many calories, and we weren't eating junk. Well, then the coup happens and, my brain gets fried by anxiety or whatever, and I just drop it. So I'm trying to pick it back up since I've got a little time. And for whatever reason, I decided to try and work all of those calculations out in my brain. I don't know why. And then
to which I'm like, Liz, I cannot have you spending 3 hours to accomplish the amount of work you accomplished.
Yeah. And then after, talking me down from my soapbox of, I don't know.
She tried to stab me, folks. She was looking at me with beam.
I did not. I was very tired and I was being...
She's looking at me with beams of rage.
Very illogical. And and then subsequently having slept, I realized, I already had all the calculations started in the apps. And, this whole process is actually a half an hour job that I could have just done. And so sorry.
No amount of me trying to appeal to honey, I just want us to be able to spend time together. And you waste hours and hours of your life doing dumb shit.
I was so tired and trying to convince myself I was being so sensible about it, and I was definitely not. And I'm sorry. But anyway, so that is moving forward, and we had a lovely, macro-friendly breakfast this morning, and hopefully we can keep that going when there's a 6-year-old in my ear saying, "But Mom, and I want, and we need, and over there."
I just don't want her to be a fatty like Dad. That's all.
Well, I mean, I would like all of us to be healthy and, able to do what we need to do without having to carry around tons of weight that's just slowing us down. So it's where we're at.
Well, it is slowing me down, but, I'm not really worried about me as I'm worried about her,
Well, yeah, but I mean, if she has a dad that exists for all of her childhood, I'm thinking that's going to be good for her. So
hopefully,
It's in her best interest that you stick around, I think.
But not her teen years or her adult years, just the childhood part.
I mean, I think they're all fairly useful to have the dad around.
You heard her, folks. She's trying to knock me off before, the kid's an adult.
Well, I guess I said that because at this pace, I'm not really sure. Like I'm trying to get the base goal of like, if we could just keep you around until she is actually a teenager, because at this pace, I'm not sure that's a given.
I'm probably not, honestly.
Yeah, so I wasn't, revealing my secret master plan. I was actually just trying to set a conservative goal of how, let's have you not die in the next 5-10 years. That'd be good. And then, we can pick it up from there.
5 to 10 years is what you think, huh?
I don't know. I don't know. There's what, Ralphie May? How old was that guy? Not that old. Not that much older than us.
I know. I'd like to think I'm not quite to Ralphie May. I got a little bit further to go.
John Pignat, he was definitely older, but maybe 20 years older, not that much older.
I see where you're going with this, and you're not wrong.
Where am I going with this? Yeah, I just, these are the things that stick in my brain is like, oh, I really liked that guy, and that guy's not around anymore, and that sucks.
Well, I'd like to be around myself, so.
Yeah.
I do have a crippling anxiety about death as it is, so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how excited I am about like a big empty. So
yeah.
I mean, if that song's playing the whole time, maybe I can get into it. But
I feel like that's not how that works, unfortunately. I think there's a lot more stuff that for you to do Earthside, and then I hopefully you'll end up someplace cool in the end.
Hopefully I make peace with it, whatever's happening.
If you can make peace with like the powers that be and end up somewhere cool where I'll get to see you later, that'd be awesome. But we'll sort that out later if we could.
We got a long way to go on that one, honey.
Hey, I know. Trust me, I get it.
We've got a long way to go. When snow hits the asphalt, the cold looking fat dog fall.
It's such a good jam. We were listening to that this week, weren't we?
Maybe last week, but...
Is that Outcast?
No, it's actually Gwen Stefani featuring Andre 3000.
Oh, well, that makes me angry now, but that's okay.
Why?
It's still good. It's still a good song. I don't know, like the whole Gwen Stefani, like there's stuff that she did solo that I really, really like, and there's stuff that she did solo that I kind of hate, and the fact that it exists just makes me angry.
Me and Don did Sunday Morning the other day at a gig.
Because it's a great song.
We did. I'm just saying, though, that you've never done that before. I thought you might appreciate it.
I do appreciate that. I'm just glad that, you and Mr. Pelk are out there doing stuff. He's a good dude.
I'll take the gigs as long as they come. So anyways, folks, this week we have a fantabulous, extra special interview with a good friend of the show, Mr. Brian McWilliams of Lions of Liberty, and apparently Bravo and Beer now.
Yes, because he's got a kid and a wife, and he's trying to get some extra good podcasting out of hanging out with his wife, watching Bravo.
No, let's just be clear. He's trying to monetize the fact that he's being forced to watch Bravo.
Well, that's pretty much what I just said, and I don't blame him.
Which is the only thing that could possibly come out of that's worthwhile.
I mean, I still liked Project Runway, but I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
Project Runway isn't even Bravo.
Oh no, it's not. It's definitely not on there anymore. I think it used to be, but
didn't it predate Bravo even? Like, didn't it move to that network?
I think it was like kind of at the beginning, or yeah, it was on some other network and then moved to Bravo and then left because they've got that Making the Cut, which is on Amazon Prime now, which is also enjoyable. Kind of a different show, but it is enjoyable.
I'll take your word for it. I've never been much of a fashion guy myself.
No, not a fashionista.
I like people to find their uniforms.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the same thing.
And then you get used to the uniform, and then you just think of them in that one outfit.
Yeah. I mean, you do kind of have the cartoon character thing going where, like, you wear all the same outfit. Although, I've heard tell that you used to be quite a fashion plate, and I'm excited to revisit that once that's a thing we could do.
Yeah, but I still had, like, the uniform. Like, it was still, that's me.
Well, I get it. It was all sweater vests and I don't know what was on the bottom. Cargo shorts?
Probably.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. We could definitely.
I miss my sweater vests and cargo shorts.
Definitely work with that and have some fun dressing you up. I just want to dress you up. Why can't I do that?
I don't know. Did we ask that of Brian McWilliams when we talked to him?
No, I think Brian's got his whole own like fashion thing going on.
Well, the only way we're gonna know is if people listen to it. So why don't we let them do it?
All right, let's go. Welcome, Mr. Brian McWilliams, back again, not for the first time.
No, I clearly do not have anything better to do with my time. I always talk about how I'm very busy, but here I am, second time.
Yeah.
He tried to come up with every excuse he could, believe it or not.
Well, babies and hot weather, that's enough. Those two are enough.
Those are kind of solid excuses.
Yeah, right.
What's really funny is that when we started this podcast, we were a music podcast.
I remember.
And we're no longer really that. I don't really know what kind of podcast we are. Then I'm trying to make us a parenting podcast. That's my goal. Freak parent podcast. That's it.
Just having children with hula hoops aflame. Basically, that's it. The one and only rule of parenting: fire, engulf hula hoops.
Yeah, there you go.
Weirdos with kids. That's maybe that's my target demographic. I imagine the generation I grew up with, there's probably a ton of them.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, and I've met Brian McWilliams in person, and he, whether or not he'll try and admit it, he is definitely a freak of his own. He's got that rarefied air up there.
Yeah, well, I got big genes, like that Scotch, Irish, Polish genealogy. I don't know, something in the food, something in the potatoes. The famine didn't hit my Irish heritage, I guess.
I've never thought of a big Irishman. Usually they're like little Twinkie people. They're scrappy.
You're just racist against Irish people. You're thinking of the little guy from the helmets from the Notre Dame. You're thinking of like little tiny ginger with his fists up in the air. Not the way we really stand, which is raining fists from above.
Oh, there you go.
I'll send you my St. Patrick's pictures from college, and which I was that little guy.
You were basically that little guy with the fists in the air.
You got the ginger on lockdown, that's for sure.
Oh no! When I was sophomore year, I was quite tiny, to say the least. It was back in my 140-pound days. I was an itty bitty little guy. And I have that Irish torso where I'm like, come on, you put them up, we'll do this thing. So,
Lizzie, how about you? How many brawls did you win? What was your record?
Yeah, no, I'm not a brawler. I was more like the passive aggressive, just slash your tires and pretend I didn't know anything about it person. But
a lot of urine and a lot of sandwiches back in high school.
Yeah, you know how it is.
So there was one girl I considered marrying before Liz, and they both have that kind of personality trait.
Great.
That's good to know.
She was a guidance counselor and had stories about smashing skateboards over a boy's head.
Wow. That's a guidance counselor. So you got this passive aggressive person that's a guidance counselor. She's like, you know what you should go into? Why don't you go into proctology? That seems like a great career for you. Why don't you go to how big are you? 105 pounds and slow? How about you become an MMA fighter? That looks like a good career for you to go into, little Johnny.
So while you joke about it, she did have a great ass. So there was that. Maybe she was telling kids to go into proctology. I don't know.
I wasn't joking about her ass. I was joking about her career recommendations here.
Nick kind of goes in one direction most of the time. You gotta,
Yes, mostly this is just me airing my dirty sexual laundry in front of my wife. It's
nice
with an audience, and it's always entertaining to hear how the peanut gallery reacts. So why would anyone say this in front of their significant other?
That's the only way some people can come. Got to have an audience there. This angle really looks my head like I'm recording. I told Nick and Liz, I was like, I'm like, it's so. My AC doesn't get put in like central air, not until next week. And I have like 2 AC units in the house, one of which is in the bedroom. So I'm lying on my back with my laptop on my crotch and leaning back. And it makes like, I have a small head in general and a long body and big torso. And this makes me look even like a little pinhead from the circus. Speaking of freak.
I wasn't going to compare you to the little guy from Puppet Master, but.
Yeah, right. I got that going on. little drill head guy.
You got those broad shoulders and just that tiny head.
Yep. Oh yeah, that guy. He was tough. I'll
There
take
you
that.
go.
He was tough. He used to carry around big, heavy stuff for the little puppets. They're doing that 100 days of horror this right now. I'm behind on. I got to catch up. But one of my goals is to finally sit down and watch all of the Puppet Master movies all the way through.
Nice. I think I've seen 2. I don't even know how many there are.
There's 10.
Jesus.
It's way too many.
God.
What?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you right now, none of them past the first 2 are watchable.
Well, obviously they're just churning them out.
But something that I want to do.
They just become sock puppets. It's just a guy with a sock puppet, with a camera, like a cell phone camera. And he goes up and just punches people in the face with a sock puppet. And then he's like, Puppet Master 9's done. We're going to film 10 later. Get a new
You know
sock.
what? That would have actually required more work than I think Puppet Master 8 was, because at least one of them was literally just scenes from all of the old movies to try and put like all of them into one timeline. And so it just took footage from all of the previous movies and might have had like 5 to 10 minutes of like interstitial kind of stuff etching it all together.
That's awesome.
So they didn't even bother with the sock puppets. They put less work.
It's
than
like
that.
the old sitcoms where they have the clip episode, but in a movie.
Right.
Exactly. It's well documented on like all of the fan sites, because it does have a really interesting fan base for those movies. That they just weren't even trying on that one. They just had to put something out so that they can maintain the rights
I
for
appreciate
the franchise.
I like. Oh yeah, that's like. God, what movie was it where the rights were gonna
Hellraiser.
expire? Was Hellraiser? Was that another one too? And like, I thought,
Hellraiser keeps putting out shitty movies because they do not want to give up the rights to Hellraiser 1 and 2.
yep.
Because they actually still make money off of them.
Yeah.
And they keep hinting that they're going to make a new one, which scares the shit out of me because I'm a huge Clive Barker fan, and I cannot imagine them remake like the original movie. Even like the time period aside, it's fucking perfect to the actual short story. So
I agree, man. I'm a big fan. I hate any movie remakes, to be honest. Like they were talking about remaking Big Trouble in Little China, which is probably my favorite movie of all time. So awesome.
you just can't do it with cult movies. Like it doesn't never work.
Never works. But
Yeah.
I will say this though, I have a little bit of hope just because The Rock, I guess, is going to be playing the Kurt Russell role. And I was like, you know what? I can
okay.
see The Rock pulling it off, but
That could work.
you never know. Is the rest of the chemistry going to be okay? Who knows?
You're just putting all of the charm of the franchise on The Rock.
I think the same guy could play, the guy who plays Uncle Benny in 75 movies, the old Chinese actor
Yeah.
who played Lo Pan. I think he's still alive and could probably still play the exact same character again.
Didn't he? I want to say he died like a year or two ago.
No.
I don't know. I could be wrong though. Let's hope not. I mean, The Rock managed to make the what the hell was it that Baywatch movie watchable?
Yeah. He
Oh
was
my
bad.
God.
Well, you know what? I gotta say, the other dude, Zac Efron's actually pretty funny too. I give him credit.
Yeah.
No, it
worked.
was a far better movie than I expected it to be. I can say that much.
Yeah.
So you recently started a new podcast there, Brian. Let's get the plugging shit out of the way.
Oh, sure.
I am personally offended that this podcast would even exist, almost as much as I'm offended that the network that it's based on even exists. That those people are allowed to breathe my air it makes my nerd rage boil. I feel like Tom Woods over here, just living 20 years in the past when I was not popular.
Yeah,
But
I'm telling you, Liz, do you watch any of the? Well, so the podcast, the new podcast is Bravo and Beer. Do you partake in the Bravo shows?
Yeah, no, it came up because Nick was having his aneurysm about the show existing, and I was like, "But Project Runway was on Bravo. that show was awesome. I loved the heck out of that show."
Yeah, see, there's guilty pleasures on Bravo and TLC, which TLC is the funniest. Bravo, okay, you always knew it was going to be like whatever, goofy kind of TV, but TLC stands for The Learning Channel.
Well, it used to.
they gave that up 20 years ago.
It used to, and now it's just like 90. All they run is 90 Day Fiance and like shows about little people and people that have 70 kids. That's it. Learning.
Pretty much.
But yeah, man, I got the wife, I got the baby. She likes the reality shows. Happy wife, happy life. So this new podcast, Bravo and Beer, just is a good way to spend time with my wife, make fun of the show, and then jump on with Rico and Odie to mock it. And hopefully there's other people out there like us. I'm like, this has got to be a huge untapped market that just have to watch these shows. I might as well talk to them.
There you go.
He's trying to play this off as a way to spend time with his wife. But what I'm really thinking is Jason said, look, you guys are never going to make any money with the libertarian market. You got to leave that shit behind and you got to go and tap something. There's some actual people watching. And you're like, what can I do?
He didn't say, he didn't give us the recommendation to start this podcast, but there's definitely I think, a limit to how much money that can be made in the libertarian marketplace. Don't get me wrong. I need Joe Jorgensen to do very well for Lions of Liberty to do anything in the future. But I don't know. It just seems like a fun thing to do. It's get drunk on a Wednesday. It's garbage people. Who doesn't like to watch garbage people? Like hoarders.
I'm going to be honest. I can't watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because of that.
Always
Oh
Sunny.
gosh, that one's awful.
I appreciated it, and then I watched the world around me become those people in real life, and I could no longer appreciate it.
Yeah, except without their drunken charm.
Well, that was the problem. It's like, there's the whole point in the show is that they're awful, shitty people.
Yeah.
And you're all trying to be like these awful, shitty people, and it's a problem for me.
Yep, I'm with you.
I'm carrying a what do you call it? A mattress. That's all this is. It's just all my pent up nerd rage back in the day.
Don't you have the internet? That's where nerd rage is for the internet. I guess podcast is still internet technically, though, right?
Yeah, technically.
That's me and Eric from Rebel with the Cause talk about The Expanse, and me and Ben Pangy are about to go through, and starting next week, we're going to be doing recaps of Captain Planet, the entire series.
Oh, wow. Nice. I'll have to tune in for that. Why did I watch that stupid show? I think it was just on TV when I got home. Wait, did they reboot it, or are you talking about the original?
No, the original.
Okay, cool.
So if I can tell you this, so the cartoon actually isn't all that bad. It's like crazy propaganda, but it was actually a fairly well made show. And if you go through, get 5 minutes, look at the cast list for that movie, because there's hundreds and hundreds of people that were in it over 6 years, and we're talking like
big names,
lots and lots of character actors, some people that were nobodies at the time, like way more famous people in it than you would actually expect.
You know why? Here's a theory on that. Here's why there's so many famous people in Captain Planet. Was probably because a lot of those famous people got caught doing something shitty, got busted for blow, got pulled over in a DUI, called somebody a racist name, and this was community service, because it's like, oh yeah, it's all, it's for the kids, it's for the cause, it's for the earth. So they probably could write off that time as like, oh, time served, community service, check mark.
I was really expecting you to go full on Pizzagate with that. I'm a little disappointed you didn't.
Well, I mean, look, that's also out there. Don't get me wrong.
And you said they were caught doing awful things. I assume most of them raped children, and that's why they were making that program.
It can be more than one thing. It can be both things.
Look, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't in there. It was more of the people you'd expect. So speaking of cartoons, the real reason I wanted to have you on is because I think that if we were to peg any of the Lions of Liberty crew to not have a kid and just, be like the perpetual cool uncle, you were the one that we pegged.
Really? Interesting.
And you came, well, I mean, let's be honest, we don't know you that well.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised to be over Mark, but I guess my show is more irreverent. And yeah. Well, anyway, go ahead.
You're the drunk guy yelling. Yeah, right? Drunk guy yelling. You don't want that guy to have kids, generally speaking.
I'm like, yeah, but drunk guy yelling is most fathers in America, is it not? I mean, let's be honest with ourselves.
What's his name has had one hell of a career with F is for Family based on drunk guy yelling.
Yeah.
Who's F is for Family by? I forget.
Bill Burr, isn't it?
Is it Bill Burr?
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was F is for Family.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And by the way, that show is amazing. Like, if you don't I don't know if you do cartoons at all, but
I love cartoons.
It's a lot like watching what I presume my dad's dad was like. I'm gonna say that.
Nice.
Lots of yelling. But so out of the blue, you all of a sudden went and you had a kid, and now you're living in the worst place in the world with a child.
Yep. Well, other than Chicago, maybe.
And the world suddenly comes crashing down. I'm curious. So when we saw you at PorkFest, a little over a year ago, did you expect the world to make these kind of changes in the next year?
Man, no. And, and I'd be lying if I didn't look at the way the world is now. And like, I went in, I always wanted to have kids, and I'm good with kids. I'll tell you a whole story about when I used to work with kids at Sesame Place, a famous
Wow.
So, but yeah, I always know I wanted to have kids, and had this one. I'm beautiful baby girl, love her to death, over the moon. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm a little bit worried looking around at the way things have gone, how everything's just gone haywire, how there's it looks like more violence, everything, like cancel culture.
If I'd held out another year, would I have made the same decision?
I mean, yeah, I want to have another baby. Like, I'd like to go for another boy and have 2 kids ideally, but yeah, kind of like, let's see how this shit shakes out. And like you said, I live in Los Angeles, where you get sky high taxes and sky high expensive California, where thank God, my school district, I know public schooling, but in LA, we can't afford necessarily to homeschool because you got to both be working and pay your fucking sky high taxes to your sky high house.
Yeah.
So we have a school district that's okay, but man, if we didn't, I don't know what I'd do. So yeah, it's definitely worrisome. And yeah, I definitely am concerned about the world and the freedoms that my kid is going to either inherit or not be awarded. I mean, I'm terrified of socialism actually taking hold of the country, I'll tell you that.
It's wrong! Yeah! No way! Yeah! Tell us so straight! Can I get an amen? Say it louder, children! Beyond the bombs coming for you! Right now! That's what I said! Beelzebub! Oh, God, little children! Oh, what you say?
Hey everyone, Jake here, host of the Tasting Anarchy podcast. Join my co-host Mason and I each week as we explore the world of wine and alcohol through a Liberty lens. You can find us on all your major podcatchers, tastinganarchy.com, or Tasting Anarchy on Twitter. Tasting Anarchy, your wine and liberty podcast. Find out how much government is in your drink.
You know, I get real scared of it sometimes, and then there's other times when I just kind of, I'm sure you're not a lot older than me, so you can probably very distinctly remember, you were old enough to really remember as an adult the world prior to 9/11, more importantly, prior to the Patriot Act.
Oh, yeah.
And I was talking to some guys that were born like in the early 90s the other day, and it's difficult to even think that they have no conception. And they were just like, oh no, I get it. Like, you don't understand how different the world fundamentally was. Like, it just palpably felt different. The air was different.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, it's like, well, we have less freedoms than we did, but we're managing just fine. And I guess no matter what, you got to make the most out of whatever life you do have.
Well, we're an adaptable species, that's for sure. I mean, that's like kind of getting off on a tangent, but when people talk about climate and, and the challenges of this and that and the changing environment we have out there and pretending it's like the end of the world, humans are very adaptable. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. We'll live in it. And also on the flip side of that, though, there's technological advances, there's cultural advances you can make to accumulate, not accumulate. Sorry, my brain just failed me there. To adapt to your circumstances. But on the same side, on the flip side of that, you can also adapt to, like you're saying, a lack of freedom, a lack of ability to communicate, a draconian authoritarian environment. I mean, you look at the way that China's evolved, their society, and granted, I think it's gotten more severe since I was there probably 10 years ago now, but their society had evolved under this, communist, authoritarian environment wherein they were still operating largely in a free market environment where a lot of the people were able to start their own business. It was easier to start a business than it is here. They're selling stuff out out of their windows. You can drink on the street. You can, get away with a lot of things, even taxes. They had to give away receipts with scratch offs on them. So people would report that they had income. Otherwise, there was no evidence of it. They just take cash. So, people are adaptable, but that doesn't mean we should be forced to adapt in that way. And it's the boiling frog. The boiling frog is how that happens. You learn to adapt slowly over time. And I feel like, if the changes happen quickly and abruptly, people might be more inclined to rally back and say, this is fucked. And in truth, we may be looking at that right now, where people are saying this is fucked.
The thing that really in particularly exemplifies that and does it's so perfect and clear how they manipulated the situation is the social media thing.
Yep.
Had they come out, like when they first started banning people, when they banned Alex Jones, had they banned all the same people they were going to ban from then to today?
Oh, it'd be huge outcry.
Oh, we would have had new social media things 4 years ago because it would have been a big thing. But what do? They slow roll it. First you start here, then you go one layer in, and then before you know it, we're here where you can't say shit. They're shutting everyone off, and the time and energy hasn't been put into it because it wasn't bad enough. Well, now it's bad enough, and you didn't do any of the legwork,
Yeah.
and now there's more hurdles set up in your way.
Yeah.
It's
And also,
it's definitely frustrating.
yeah, without a doubt.
It's how
And the way they rolled it out too is that you've got, it's not only that they did it slowly, but they also did it so that, kind of the culling, the shadow banning, where people were not getting the same amplification of the voices on social
Mhm.
media as the people that they know would be on their side and completely complicit in the cancel culture because it's on the liberal side of things. So yeah, it was. Give them credit. They did it to a perfection.
yeah.
It's like complimenting the construction of the Death Star, I guess. But
Yeah.
they really did something. They really built something impressive.
But it's Ace Ventura walking into the
Oh yeah.
the trophy room. This is a wonderful room of death.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, since you're I guess a new father, so to speak. How old is the child? Not a year yet, right?
She's almost 7 months now. Yeah,
That's what I
she's
thought.
she's still very much a baby.
Not talking yet.
Not talking, babbling
No.
nonstop.
So he still has a cat.
Still a cat. What does that mean?
That was Nick when our kid was a baby. He's like, well, it's a cat until she can
Okay,
talk
yeah.
and we can converse. So
I'm just throwing food at it and giving it shelter. It provides me nothing. Just that.
Yep. Yeah, she is like a chicken wing that she tried today. She's got like one tooth, but yeah, she's a little cutie pie, and but she's smiling now at least. And another buddy of mine has a podcast called DILF, Dad I'd Like to Friend. Fucking
nice.
nerd. So, and I'm pissed at him because I was on an episode. I was like the third episode.
You say that, and I want to go on. I want to go listen to this show now
I know.
because there's so many things about that are actually genuinely attractive.
Well, it's. I mean, it's not a bad podcast.
That's a stupid name. I want to talk to the guy that came up with that stupid name.
Yeah. So anyway, he's got this podcast though, and but he was talking to us because they're good friends. And actually, that's like I told you, I'm doing Zoom movie night, the new cool thing that people do nowadays in COVID. But that's who I'm doing it with, actually. Funny enough.
Okay. Nice.
In those strange turn of events. But he was talking about how he called like the fourth trimester, this concept where the baby's out, but it's basically still in. You can't really see, it can't really communicate, it still doesn't know what the hell's happening, and you don't get anything back from it. It might as well still be in the womb. And
This is a good justification for post-birth abortion.
yeah, there you go. The Democrats are lining up.
I mean, you're losing me there.
But it is interesting once they finally start to give you something back, and that smile and laugh, and now she's a giggle puss all the time, and you learn what to do as far as what they like and don't. It's definitely a lot more rewarding now, even though she's not talking yet. And I try to do the things. Yeah, wave, say something, say daddy, say hi, dad. Yeah, wave at me, do anything. Blink once. I'm just not getting it yet, but someday.
And then eventually when you do get it, it's like, could you shut the fuck up, Dad?
I'm
Like,
worried
I'm
about
tired.
that.
Just leave me the fuck
Well,
alone.
it's like she's
Yeah, right.
she's trying to stand up. She's like doing kind of a wheelbarrow thing, and like, man, now this baby's gonna be running all over the place. It's gonna be hard to pay attention to. Dogs are gonna be chasing her around the block.
The dopamine hits when you have a kid that age are awesome because
Yeah.
it's like the best kind of terrarium ever.
So wait, how many? So do you guys just have one kid or two kids? How many do you have?
We have one
One kid?
kid.
Oh, I got my shit fucking cut off like the minute I could. Like,
He's like,
no, no.
and we're
That's
done.
Lizzie. That's Liz's passive aggressiveness. She's like, I did that. He was asleep. And I snicked him.
I will. I plan on adopting at some point if we can get ourselves in a financial place for it.
Yeah,
But-
there you
Yeah,
go.
that's awesome, man. I'm a big fan of that too. It's something I've also thought about. If we don't end up having one, or maybe just down the road, even if I'm a little older, trying to adopt a little older kid. So, have you ever heard of CASA,
Mhm.
Court Appointed Special Advocates? It's like a nonprofit group.
No.
Oh,
Great
okay.
group. They work with like foster kids. So I've worked with them doing PR for 10 years now. And just like, man, the shit, like there's so many foster kids, especially in LA, but just, desperate for homes, good kids, just in bad situations. And
I mean, with all those liberal people out there, they're not just scooping them up by the handfuls.
yeah, not so much.
Cheaper by the dozen.
Yeah, not so much. You'd be surprised. Nobody's scooping these kids up. Not in LA.
Yeah.
Well, they're scooping them up, throwing them in jail, probably.
Scooping them up, sucking out the adrenochrome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's LA for you.
That's
though.
that. By the way, I don't know. I don't want to go on the adrenochrome pipeline on this podcast, but my wife ruined her life for at least a month when she read about
Oh,
it.
no.
Ruined like her brain. She was like, I can't.
Why would you do that when you have a new baby? Why would you do that to yourself?
I didn't give it to her. I didn't give it to her. I don't know why she read it. I don't know how she came across it.
Ugh.
But it's probably the Sam Tripoli podcast. I think she listens to his Tinfoil Hat podcast.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, baby, oh, no. That's the
Well, you got to hook her up with our rescue because at least there's people out there who are fighting against those people.
Yes.
That'll give her a little a little hope.
Yeah, thank God.
Good Lord.
That's why even today she was like, I swear to God, because she's registered libertarian, as am I, and she's like, I don't know. She's like, this pedophile stuff. Think about voting for Donald Trump if he's going to go stop these pedophiles. And I was like, number one, we live in California. You're throwing your vote away. Go smoke libertarian, so it gives third-party numbers up. But also, I don't think nobody's stopping pedophiles. These elites, they're all pedophiles. Nobody's stopping anything.
Yeah, if all that stuff is real, it's gone on for a lot longer than any of us have been alive, and I don't think we're in a position to stop it. So, speaking of which, so you've been obviously
Speaking of pedophiles,
Weird segue.
doing things about it.
Okay.
So you've been politically active, obviously, a lot longer than you've had a kid. I frankly, I think after I emptied every drawer in my kitchen out into my backyard when George Bush won the second time, I kind of became very politically non-active and basically just ignored politics for a long while. But having a kid definitely is basically the thing that re-engaged my need to be political. I think because, even back then, wow, in 2014, you look and say, "Oh man, look at how fucked up all this world is, and I gotta do something about it. I gotta fight something." And then I look where I'm at now, like, wow, I really didn't accomplish anything. But if nothing else, the need was there when I had Irma. Have you noticed an effect on that particular side of things with you at all after having your daughter?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, and I will say that to your point about, I think somebody asked me on like an AMA I did for the Lions Liberty Pride. But somebody asked me, like, what's the most difficult thing about being a libertarian? Seeing that, like we said, in 2014, yelling, riled up, trying to change things, trying to convince people, seeing things continuously get worse is absolutely maddening and by far the most frustrating thing about being libertarian. But yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it's made me want to fight harder. And I've even thought about like, okay, what if, God knows if any of the other things I'm doing, is my writing ever going to take off? Who fucking knows? But maybe the one thing
you're a white man, it's going to be a while before that shit comes back
no
in.
Shit, man. No shit. But, it's like, I'm like, okay, well, if maybe this is something where that's my legacy, just fighting, trying to be a voice for the movement, trying to, influence people and get the word out and help, consult libertarians and, help try to push the policy and push the people forward. And, it's like anything. We talk about converting people and changing people's minds. I think that, trying to concentrate on that is something I'm trying to do a lot more of because, you can yell all day to the same people, but it doesn't really accomplish much. If we're not talking to other people and they're not listening to us, nothing's going to change. So without a doubt, I'm more motivated to, I think to invest more time in it, but it is a lot of time. And that's the problem is, you want to invest more, but having a kid, now I have less time than ever.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing with kids is I've done some Father's Day episodes with people over the past couple of years. There's also the concern that you have to be real careful about what you say and do on the internet when you have kids because I can tell you right now, I don't have a single thought that doesn't usually end in, will this get CPS stealing my child?
Yeah, that is worrisome. I mean, I've laid off making the pedophilia jokes that I may have made in another era of my life. But yeah, that is a worry, man. And it's just like, not only that, but just, being out there, making jokes, having a libertarian podcast, which of course would piss people off in general. And even with the new Bravo and Beer podcast, I'm making jokes on that. It's also not only worry about what can the state do to me, but it's also, what if cancel culture comes for me? I do public relations for a living. Lions of Liberty is great. We have some income. Doesn't pay my fucking bills. So if I get canceled, what then? Now I got to figure out a way to make income, or my wife's got to be the sole breadwinner, which is going to make life tough in LA. So it's a lot of that comes into play too, which is why,
I just keep hearing you say you want to move out of LA.
Man, we're trapped here for a good while.
It's the subtext of everything
my wife
you said.
Doesn't. We've got our friends here. We got our house. Okay, the roots have gone too deep. Her family's here. Her dad's here. So that's tricky.
Somebody's got to be on the front lines,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And honestly, that's what the other thing is, if we just keep fleeing these states, then everything's going to go. Eventually, we're all going to be up. I read this book. It was called The 3-Body Problem by
Okay, so and what's your thought on it?
Did you guys read it?
I think that was I thought it was the
Nick
most
started,
overhyped book I've ever read. No, I read the whole thing.
I liked it. I thought it was good. I don't.
It had some interesting
I don't know how
concepts.
overhyped it was. What did you hear about it going in? I just had a buddy say, "Hey, check this book out."
Oh, I had everybody and their brother recommend it to me.
Oh, really?
And And it had some interesting concepts. It was more interesting to read, understanding where that book came from.
Yeah.
It was a horribly written book, and it really, really kept kicking me out. Not because it wasn't like interesting, but because it was just badly written.
Yeah.
That like
Well,
and
or
that,
badly translated.
and that could all, and I leave that up there too. It also could have been just terribly translated. There was a lot of like science in it that was really, really way off.
See that, I don't
But
know.
I think a
'cause,
lot.
like, I have some grasp of different scientific concepts, but of course, by no means am a scientist. So for me, I was like, okay, this is interesting. The whole parallel dimensions and the whole, first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension kind of things, and falling into other dimensions, I thought was very interesting.
when they were folding the making a computer program out of dimensions being unfolded
Right.
and folded into each
Yeah,
other.
I'm like, okay, I guess, but it was interesting enough, conceptually interesting. But it makes me think about that when we talk about libertarian thought and fleeing, from shitty places and not standing up and fighting. And Texas has got to keep fighting, or else it's all over.
Yeah.
But I think about that.
Oh no,
when they
Texas
have-
has already lost. They just don't know it
Well,
yet.
maybe so. But that, like, there's a concept of this 2D realm it was a 4D realm was collapsing into tiny bubbles into another realm. And that's what I feel like we're going to happen. It's like these little bubbles are going to get forced together until finally they're gone. So we can't keep seeding ground physically, mentally, or conceptually and philosophically.
Do you like your libertarian podcast host leather-clad on a motorcycle running from Nazis in black and white? I'm sure my friend Eric in no way resembles that at all, but his Rebel with a Cause podcast is guaranteed to bring you that same rebellious spirit, bringing in guests from all over the political wheel, bringing with it his own personal blend of irreverence and, dare I say it, down-home charm. So head on over to the Rebel with a Cause podcast and begin your own rebellion against bad podcasts. Well, and see, now you kind of went the opposite direction, I think. Like when all this coup stuff happened, like we got way more conservative in the finance department, and my entire life goal became paying off my debt so I can be a lot leaner as far as the options that I have for the family. The other thing is like I've always, ever since I've been into the libertarian niche, like my whole thing has always been, I really am about community. I want to help build communities because, as a weirdo, a freak, as they will say, my big they've always been kind of an outsider. And so the one thing that the internet always afforded me was that there were other outsiders that I could connect with and create community. And with libertarians, I mean, that's basically the whole of libertarians is just weird autistic people.
Yeah.
Like
with me being the only exception.
Right.
That's why I am your king.
I wasn't gonna go that far. If you ever want to have a really fun time, go hang out at Anarchy Bar some night over in the Punk Rock Libertarians group, and
Check it out.
it's super hilarious because it's just a bunch of us dorks hanging out on our computers and drinking and just like, what's up, dude? What's up? It's the dive bar experience without having to leave your basement.
That was basically, so we have our like I will go to the nitty gritty, but we have calls with our higher level supporters. We got people on there for our Zoom calls, and one day I had to leave. And I had to leave the Zoom early, and I was hosting it, so I just left it running.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gone for like 2 or 3 hours, and I come back home in my house at like 10 at night, and I hear voices. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And sure as shit, I walk back into my den where my computer's on, and there's just like 5 of the people just still yammering, hammered, just talking to the Zoom.
Oh, dude, we went. Listen, first off, Anarchy Bar happens like almost every night. I don't know how some of the guys do it,
Champions of men, alcoholics.
but I went until at least 3 in the morning the other day.
Oh, really? Well, are you guys both working from home still?
No.
Well, we don't. Neither of us works from home. She works at UPS, and I work for an ATM company.
Oh, okay. So well, yeah, UPS, you're going to be out all the time anyway, even with
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
Neither one. We've actually been working more than we were working before the coup.
Interesting. Oh, yeah. Because I mean, for us, like in LA, it's unless you're like it's essential workers, but so many people are just home. Everybody's home.
Weird.
Well, all those all that cash that they pull out of the ATM machine, someone's got to put it in there
Yep, that's you.
and make sure those machines stay running. All of that money that the Fed's been printing. Yeah.
Well, you are proof that COVID is bullshit because you're handling all sorts of dirty money all
Right?
day, every day around dirty ATM machines that everybody's poking with their snot fingers, and you're not dead, and then everybody's fine.
And I have comorbidities that I fucking should be.
Yeah,
I'm fucking fat as hell, man. I should definitely be dead. Worse than that, like when it first started, dude, I work on touchscreen jukeboxes.
Oh, really?
So between the jukeboxes and the
Oh,
ATMs,
yeah, man.
like there's nothing that I touch that shouldn't, like I should have done a long time ago. Liz handles international packages going to literally everywhere.
Yeah, there's that.
How many packages of Chinese seeds have you delivered?
I'm not at liberty to disclose.
We had a good episode talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
What was in those packages?
Seeds.
Seeds.
That is seeds. Yeah, I mean, they said what they think it is. What I read was that it's just like a basically a scam
Mhm.
wherein
Yeah.
they're trying to get people to write. Basically, they write fake reviews, but they show that the product was sent and say you're a customer.
Well, it's like you
Yeah.
can't write the review unless you have a product order.
Right.
So they send garbage, and then it just gets to do it.
Exactly. So they send you the product and they write up a fake review.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Ben did an episode of Free Market Screener. Thought it was kind of fun. just getting angry and yelling about the environment. That's what I like
There
to
you
do.
go.
Fuck you, trees. Is that over and over again?
No, not at all. It's fuck you, government, for not allowing us to keep
Oh,
Well,
okay.
yes, that without a
and
doubt,
selling them
that.
off to oil companies.
Yeah, motherfuckers.
Fuck you, Mr. EPA, for all of your super fun sites that you refuse to do anything about.
Mhm.
Yeah, mostly just fuck the government.
Yeah.
But- so, I guess, do you feel optimistic about like where things are at and where they're headed, or are you like, is that a bridge too far? You sound like you're concerned, but kind of trying to keep it hopeful.
I am. Yeah, that's probably where I would fall. I'm not. I am not in any way optimistic, and I definitely am very concerned about what's going to happen in November because I think personally, I think Trump is going to win in a
Violence,
landslide,
one or the
and I
other.
think there's going to be riots and violence, and I think they're going to be put down violently.
Ah.
Do you think that if Trump lost, that wouldn't be the case also?
No, I think if he lost, that I don't think that the people that are his supporters would necessarily go out and I don't think their mentality is the same as like the Antifa types or the BLM types that are really going to go out there and just start raving.
Oh, it's not that I think their mentality is the thing. I think that feeling emboldened by a win, the things that what's going to get pushed in the next round is going to cause a backlash.
Hmm.
Like that's like, I think that if Trump wins, you're going to have the leftists freak out. If Trump loses, what they're going to start enacting because they own every fucking city every major city in the nation.
Yeah.
They're going to force people to push back.
Ah.
Yeah, I could see that too, man. I mean, without a doubt. And
I don't see not being violence personally,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm hoping.
I'm honestly really desperately hoping not. But yeah, I don't know. Aren't you?
You live at ground zero, brother.
It's like we're talking about before. Like I have a very hard time being optimistic about it. I hope that there is a very large. They always talk about the silent majority or
Oh,
the
yeah.
silenced majority is what people are calling it now, which I think is very appropriate because everybody's afraid to speak out. But that's going to be something where it's going to have to be a powerful upswell from this silent majority of people that are just rational.
Yeah.
That's just say, look, you can't fucking. I don't care what side you're on. You can't go break shit. You can't destroy people's property. You can't tell everybody what to do. You can't cancel everybody. You can't control speech. You can't control, like these things don't work. We can see in the past, we can see how they, especially in these democratic cities like Chicago, man, the people of Chicago are going to revolt. Every race, every color, they are sick of it. I mean, in Chicago, they tried to have a Black Lives Matter march and in a black community, and they were like, get the fuck out of here. So I just read this today. It's true.
I can't remember which is the one where the cops just said we're leaving.
Oh.
they we're not allowed to do our job here. So
Yeah, that was I think in Oregon.
Wow.
was that Portland or was it the other one?
I thought that was Portland, but yeah, I mean that's my hope. That's where my optimism comes from. Is that people that are rational, logical thinkers are more profound in this country than we realize, and that there's going to hit a boiling point where they're going to say we can't take this anymore. And you might have hopefully one day of violence where the people that are out there just destroying everything that's been built up so far have a severe comeuppance, and then we can go on and move forward in a more logical fashion.
Okay.
I hope. Fingers crossed. Where are you guys at?
I'm trying to have as little debt as possible and then get the fuck out of the city.
Pretty much that.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
My game plan is just to get out.
Yeah.
I'm not near as optimistic. I frankly, at this point, I could give two shits about reaching people. I think that's a lost cause. I'm going to keep the ideas ready for whatever happens next. The fact of the matter is most people don't want freedom. They want safety.
Yeah, well,
They want at least the illusion of safety. So that's not probably going to change anytime soon. But if they kill enough of themselves off being retarded, then perhaps there'll be room for someone else to come in at some point and say, "Hey, you guys see what you did there?
Yeah.
We got a better way." More the Mance Raider thing.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying, man. I think you're going to see it start happening in these cities. It's already happening. That's my hope, is that they've hit rock bottom and they're about to bounce back up, and people are looking for another alternative.
Well, how do you feel about like their alternative is going to be the Charlie Kirks and the Ben Shapiro's of the world?
I don't know. I again, this is why I think it's important that we have people. We need more communicators. And I think you're seeing more people undertake. I mean, you're seeing a lot of libertarian podcasts come out. You're seeing different leadership emerge. Even the Young Americans for Liberty have gotten a lot stronger in the last few years. And those people are kind of like walking the line between the Charlie Kirks and us.
Tell me, how many times a month do you rub one out going, "Yeah, I started this shit. This is all me."
How many times a month or how many times a day?
It's like, "Oh, I totally created this shit." Do you have any idea how many fucking libertarian podcasts there are out there?
Oh, I know,
by the
man.
way?
It's a shit ton.
When I was doing This Week in LiberPods, I think my count at one point had reached 250.
Wow, damn, really?
And I stopped doing the show just because I couldn't get the involvement from the community in the way that it needed to be successful.
Yeah.
And like, well, I can't spend all this time doing that. Fold it into something else.
Yeah. Well, as you know, it's very hard to build an audience.
Well, it doesn't have to be as hard as they make it, but
Yeah.
well, I love community. Most libertarians, I think, are those fucking I'm gonna be by myself kind of people, and they're happy with their five friends. Like I said, I eventually turned the LiberPods concept into a way to actually incentivize cross promotion between podcasts, and be surprised how little interest people had in reaching other podcasts.
That's honestly the best way to grow a podcast, though, is by.
I'm well aware, and I'd created a product to incentivize it, and like. Yeah, people just weren't feeling it or weren't paying attention or.
Well, hey man, as we know, as libertarians, people never really. It's amazing how often people will not go for something that's in their best interests, or they don't know what their best interest is.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, either way, I'm like, oh fuck it, I don't have time to waste on it. I gotta do what's right for me and my family, and I'm gonna try and do. That's why, slowly I've kind of backed away from being an explicitly libertarian podcast. Eventually maybe we'll just be a straight parenting podcast, and I'll probably have God, the market for that's huge.
Well, that could be very effective. And it's like, because it's like, having that soft influence of, now this is where I understand Jason Stapleton pivoting away, and he's still very libertarian in his podcast too. But
I mean, that's debatable. Just for the record, I listened to every episode of his. He's something. He's still got a weird boner for cops that I don't appreciate.
Well, he was a cop, so he probably.
I'm aware.
And military, so that's a hard. I guess. Yeah. God, I don't even know how long he was in there. 8 years or something like that.
But he has Matt on the show, which I appreciate because Matt's sane sometimes.
Yeah, Matt's great on that show. He's good. And actually, he was talking to Mark and I about being on the show, and then we were down like talking numbers and stuff and how it was going to work out. But then he went with Matt, which I think was a good choice.
Yeah, Matt was a better choice than you guys. I love you guys.
Well,
he's better.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a good second fiddle. I'm a first fiddle.
No.
We're both very talkative first fiddle kind of guys. It would have been very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Two alphas in the room, it was just going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. We'd just be talking over it.
Like eventually the episode literally turns into a pissing contest. And it's just a YouTube video of the two of them spraying the room.
We could have made it. That would have been the sign off for every show. It would have been awesome. It would just been the sound of us peeing into a bucket and it's slowly filling up.
Yeah.
Liz, you got anything you wanted to bring up today?
No, I'm enjoying the general splendor.
Enjoying the gibberish.
Tell her she has to talk more.
I know. Every time I'm on here, I always think that I'm like, Liz is on here, but she hasn't said much.
I said things.
She weighs in once in a while.
Yeah, I do when I have stuff to talk about.
Look, if you so if the rule is if you want Liz to talk, you talk Lord of the Rings.
Right.
You can talk Jesus.
You can talk Star Trek or homesteading. That's about it.
Oh, I love Star Trek.
Well, I was gonna say specifically, you can also, and not just homesteading. Specifically, talk about that shit John talks about, microbiome and
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, got help.
Well, I keep reading about that stuff, so it's just in my brain.
homemade sauerkraut.
Yeah. Well, I could, I don't have time tonight because, as you know, I got a boogie to do this Zoom movie watching. But I love me some Star Treks. I watched the original series on BBC.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time on Lions of Liberty on Electric Liberty Land, where I'm like, took my nap. I watch Star Trek: The Next Generation in the bedroom
There you go.
every time. That's what I sleep to.
Yeah, no, it's a happy little world.
So have you watched any of the new Star Treks?
Oh yeah, I have. Well, no, I haven't watched the really, really new ones. Like I haven't watched Lower Deck, and I watched like 2 episodes of what was the recent one that's on CBS.
Oh,
There's been 2.
There's 2.
There was Picard, and then there was Discovery.
I didn't watch Picard. I wanted to watch Picard. I didn't watch Discovery.
Do not watch Picard. It will ruin your life.
Really? Well, Discovery. I watched like 2 episodes of that.
yeah.
And I was like, this is some woke shit. And I was
Yeah.
like, click.
Oh, and it gets worse. If you only watch 2 episodes of it, man, that
Yeah, I'm
second
sure.
season.
I knew it would. I was like, this is just fucking.
That's all they can do anymore.
Yeah.
And I like we talked about with Remzo, like it's so fucking disappointing because I mean I'm all about diversity,
Yeah.
but I feel like those diverse people deserve good writing.
Yeah, I
Can
know.
we give them good writing for their diverse
Seriously.
characters?
It's like Leslie Jones, and they had that all-female Ghostbusters.
So
and they wrote
awkward.
the most stereotypically black chick. I was like, Jesus Christ, can somebody else weigh in here? This is fucking.
I don't even think that was written. I'm pretty sure that was
that just her riffing?
improving.
No,
That's her improv.
Well, maybe you're right. I don't know, but it was like I was like, Jesus, these lines are terrible.
It's really awkward.
Here's what makes me think that's the case. Her response to it with people talking shit
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, you might be right.
was the most stereotypical fucking black lady response to it.
Yeah.
Like, so Brian, thank you so much for coming on. I'm hopefully we touched on stuff that you don't always get to talk about on podcasts. I'm not sure how many.
I did a podcast every day this week. What I touched on everything.
There's
I
nothing
haven't
left.
touched on in life.
Well, fair enough.
No, this is good. I haven't really talked about libertarianism and podcasting overlapping. So, I mean, hey, if this does turn into a full parenting podcast, I'll come back on maybe another. Give me a 6 months, and I'll update you on how it's going.
Oh, there you go.
I'm gonna make sure I get a hold of you when you have a 6-year-old, and you can tell me your notes on that because then I'll have a 12-year-old, and that's gonna be something.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate you having me on again. Always fun talking to you cats.
Thank you so much, Brian. Where can people go and check you out?
Well, they can follow me. I ride the 6 bus down to the strip club every morning. No, Lions of Liberty, of course. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian with an I McWilliams. Listen to the Lions of Liberty podcast 3 times a week. Greatest libertarian variety show that has ever been. And of course, I do my Electric Liberty Land show on Wednesdays and the all new Bravo and Beer. We are now in episode 12. So if you and your friends, associates, succubuses, etc., watch that show or any Bravo TLC trash, you'll enjoy it. So join us.
You joke about the strip club. I'd almost guarantee I've spent more time in strip clubs in the past couple of years than you have.
You probably have, but I mean, not for lack of trying.
Oh, no, because I fill ATM machines.
Well,
believe it or
yeah.
not.
Wink, wink.
I mean, it's whatever.
Liz, no, I'm covered in this glitter because all the bills are covered in glitter. The ATM machines at strip clubs spray glitter and perfume on you.
There you go.
What do you want me to do, baby?
No, you want to know what's a real fun moment is when the girl walks up to you and is like, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just here to fill the ATM," and then doesn't even bother responding, just walks away.
You're like,
It's a moment that most people never get to appreciate. Like the minute I don't got money for you, just don't give a shit. It's a woman who understands what she's there for.
You got to appreciate that soul drive. It's a pure being.
there you go.
All right, Brian. Well, you have yourself a good one, and thanks again for coming on.
Thanks.
All right, later.
And clean like concentrated bleach. Fast walk, line it down, you give me yours. And I can't slow down, so you know I gotta rock hard. This is hard, no holds barred, rocking hard.
All right, babe. What do you think?
I think that was fabulous, and it was so exciting to get to catch up, and awesome of him to be on the show. And I'm so excited about the baby because she's so cute.
Brian was I was the episode number 1 from when we actually started numbering the show in this like continuity.
No way. Was he really? That's awesome.
Yes, he was. That
was way before he had a kid.
It was. I'm excited to talk to new papas.
Yeah. He's so excited about being a new papa too, and it's awesome.
He sounds so excited about having to stay in LA.
Well, yeah, who could really be excited about that?
Because everyone leaves the cities, thank God.
Mm.
Hopefully they leave their big city voting in the cities, though.
Yeah, that'd be awesome for the rest of the country because, yeah, that stuff's messing up stuffs.
So why don't you update me real quick on garden stuff? Where are we at?
All right. So the garden stuff is kind of awesome because I've gotten so many cucumbers. So many. I did like the cucumber planting and then more cucumber planting because I got bored. So we've got tons and I'm making pickles and we're eating pickles and it's awesome. All the macro, what do they call it? Anyway, all the good microbes. We've also got our beautiful yellow grape tomatoes that are coming in. We've got some nice big red tomatoes that are coming in. We've got squashes that are starting to come in. It's like, the happy, exciting time in the garden. And I'm starting to put in peas because, the season's going to turn over and it's going to be all cold stuff. So peas, kale, lettuce, all that stuff's going in. And then I've started making bone broth because it's getting to soup season. And I literally made like a big old jar of tallow, which I'm pretty stoked about because that stuff is expensive. And yeah, I'm excited to have sort of made it as a byproduct of just making bone broth. So success.
It does sound like success.
Kinda, yeah.
It sounds like shit I didn't have to pay for.
Yes. Or at least you didn't have to pay for twice.
Yeah.
So we technically paid for the bones, but we also made, bone broth, which is probably...
Well, and I paid for the soil too. I mean...
Yeah. It's probably like $10 a jar in. So it's probably made $40 worth of bone broth and then $12 worth of tallow. It's a pretty good deal.
Okay. That sounds like a pretty good deal. Do you think those squashes are actually going to come in?
I honestly don't know. Like the one we had my initial planting of squash, which is as a companion to our tomatoes, which went bonkers and blocked all the light and all the air and all the sun. So I don't know that they really got what they needed. They ended up with moisture problems, and I think it's dying back right now. But there was another one that I planted sort of all by its lonesome and propped up and staked and all that good stuff. And that one seems to be doing really awesome. We've got like happy little squashes growing on that one. So we'll at least get something, maybe not as much as we would have initially, but hey, you live and learn. That's gardening for you.
You take your word for that.
Yeah.
We did get another piece of luggage from my parents.
Yeah, we did. And a bunch of Christmas stuff, which is awesome.
We haven't even gone through yet, have we?
We haven't really, but I love the Christmas. I know there's dishes in there when we kind of needed dishes, and anything to add more of the Christmas spirit. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but we've got the year-round tree is up in the feed. So if you need a little Christmas right this very minute, you can go in there and check out those episodes. And yeah,
we're actually about to record one of this season's right after this. So
I know I'm so stoked because it's a movie that I watched so much when I was a kid. So.
She's going to just be so excited about it. I'm going to rain fucking hot acid over her parade.
It doesn't even matter because I'm completely not objective about it. And I know that. So whatever you say, it's going to go in a file marked, yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't get it. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I definitely did not get it. So, all right, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. We'll be back next week. Take it easy.
Make it magical.
This podcast is a proud creation of the Mad Audio Lab. For more information, check out madaudiolab.com. Peace Freqs is part of the Liberty Hippie Podcast Network. If you like what we do, be sure to check out Homesteads and Homeschools, Free Markets Green Earth, Cannabis Heals Me, and This Week in Liberpods. We're living proof that libertarian doesn't mean washed up Republican.